Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
91.3 Capital FM, Desert Island Discs. It is on this wonderful Sunday evening, and as always, sharing life's interesting stories as spoken by those that have lived them. Now, the COVID pandemic has had its knock on all of us in more ways than one. From different individuals to industries to vocations to everyone in their respective right. Question is, are you keeping safe where you are? Are you ensuring that you are abiding by what we've been told to abide by to avoid any mishap or interaction with the virus? But be that as it may, today on the program, I have the pleasure of hosting someone that would not ordinarily have been on this program, on this radio station, because, well, your guess is as good as mine. He wouldn't be here because he would be on another radio station doing what he does best, and he has done this for 21 years and was still counting. But he's here to share with us his life story of the legend that he is and for all that he's been able to do over the years. Why is he here tonight? COVID led him here. He's not sick, he's not sneezing, he's not coughing, but pay cut came his way. He said he's not taking it, and then he was shown the exit. James Onen, also known as Fat Boy, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me here, Simon. It's a great pleasure. And like you said, under no ordinary circumstances, I would not be here. I would not have been allowed to be here. But now I'm essentially free and unemployed, floating in the air. I am allowed to float to wherever I wish, and today I've landed here.
Well, we're glad that you landed in the right place. You never have landed anywhere different. You are everything James Onen, and everything not Fat Boy at all. What happened to you? The last time I interacted with you where we used to work, you were really fat. When you jumped, your belly used to shake like jelly.
Oh, yeah, I used to sing that song quite a bit, didn't I?
Today, you are far from a Fat Boy. What happened?
Well, I made lifestyle changes that ended up with me getting into better shape. And mostly that had to do with changing my eating habits, my diet. So I made some adjustments in that area. I'm now following what is called the keto diet, and it helps me to keep my weight at a manageable level. And I do fair minimum amount of exercise. That also helps me too, and I'm feeling healthier and fitter than I've ever felt my whole life.
There's always a standard question on this program. It normally comes in the last part, but let me ask it now since you've talked about your diet. What's your favorite dish now?
My favorite dish is grilled chicken.
Grilled chicken.
I love grilled chicken. I eat it. I eat so much of it.
Keto allows you to do that?
Yeah, you can eat any kind of meat, really. Yeah.
So what have I been waiting for? For me, I thought dieting means not eating at all.
Well, it means you need to change what you eat. And actually, with keto, and why it's like very popular among people, is that it's a diet that doesn't require you to be hungry. And that's one of the challenges with the more restrictive diet is, people are told they have to eat either very small portions or to skip meals. And for many people, this is daunting. For keto, what it does, it challenges you to restrict what it is you eat so that you can eat a meal and eat it to your fill. But for as long as it contains the types of foods that are required for the diet, you're going to be able to manage your weight better.
Later on in the program, you'll be telling us who cooks that meal that makes it your keto diet, if at all, or you have to go restaurant hopping. And now, without a paycheck, how are you going to be able to afford that kind of lifestyle? Because, all this comes with a bit of chums. James.
Yes.
Everybody knows you for what you have been doing, a legend that you are, but most importantly for being such a rabble rouser in everything that you've not just been playing music. You have not just been, doing the stuff that we do, move consoles and volume knobs, but you have been leading conversation and debate. So that we know about you. Now we want to know about what was or what is the making of James Onen. Who is he? When was he born? Where was he born? To whom was he born? That's where we start from. That's why the program is here.
All right, excellent. Well, I was born in 1975.
That's recent.
Yeah, fairly recently, about 45 years ago. I was born in...
look an inch older than 40.
Really?
Thanks to your dad.
Thanks to that. Well, I was born and raised in Tokyo, Japan. Yes. It's where I spent the first 11 years of my life, in Japan. And so, I'm a bit culturally confused. I mean, obviously, I am Ugandan. I live here. This is my home. And yet I still feel a strong connection to some of my cultural Like the aspects of culture I was raised in. So there's aspects of me that is very Japanese in the way that I think and in the way that I view the world. But at the same time, I'm also very Ugandan, and there's ways that I connect to that also. And so I think what has helped me, particularly with my profession and what I do in media as a communicator, is that it's just given me a much broader palette of ideas and viewpoints and ways of looking the world to pick from, that I'm able to engage my audience in different kinds of conversations and still remain relevant, for over 20 years.
I can imagine that. So, Japan.
Yeah.
How I think of Malago Hospital here or something like that. What led you to be born in Japan? Okay, that was not your decision to make, but what are the circumstances that made you be born in Japan? Parents or anything?
Yes, my father was working in the Uganda embassy in Tokyo in Japan.
Wow.
And that is how I happened to be born there. So I was born there because my father was working there.
Son of a diplomat.
Yes.
He has a name, doesn't he?
Yes, the late Ambassador Julius Onen.
Oh, we remember him very fondly.
Yeah.
Passed on as a permanent secretary.
Yeah.
Very correctly. Mm-hmm. And your mom, what was she doing? Also an embassy staff?
She was a housewife. And then eventually, after we all grew up and we returned to Uganda, she then pursued a life as an administrator in Uganda Investment Authority, where she retired some years ago. So now she's at home being a grandmom.
Take us back to the growing up in this childhood as child of a diplomat in a country like Japan, where I'm sure you must have been the guys with the biggest pair of eyes everywhere you went.
Oh yeah,
biggest skins, and perhaps taller than almost everybody else. What was it like growing up? Just take us to your domestic home setting, but also the interactions you had with the Japanese around you.
Okay, so our home was a very Ugandan home in terms of how our parents related to us. But then every time we left the house, it was a different world. It was Japan, right? The
Let's
Japanese
understand
people.
this. The way our parents related to us. The Ugandan way.
Yeah.
You don't spare the road and
Yes.
spare the child.
So Ugandan parents are not. Maybe the recent generation of parents is different, but like if you're talking about parents who, at this point in time, might be in their 60s or older, years ago, such parents weren't the type that tried to get too friendly with their children. There was that clear dividing line between parent and child. So it was more a relationship of order and discipline rather than friendship and relationship. So there was that gap between them and us, so which is why we found ourselves connecting more strongly with the culture that we lived in, because the culture we found was a lot more accessible to us than, let's say, our parents, who were kind of in their own world. So we consumed a lot of the material we were seeing on the television and the things from the surroundings. And then we'd come back home and we'd just be talking about things our parents couldn't even understand,
and maybe in a language that they hadn't picked up.
Exactly.
So you can speak Japanese.
Yes, but very broken. I do a better job understanding it than speaking it, only because I really haven't had a chance to practice it for like 30 years. I haven't lived in Japan, and I really haven't had anyone to be chatting with over the years. So my degree of comfort in speaking it has really faded.
But you can read it.
Yes, I can read it.
You can read a job advert in Japanese if there's a job, a radio gig in Tokyo.
Yeah, I could. But also I can understand. And
can you write that stuff? They do their calligraphy.
Yeah, I can. Some of it. Now, the thing is, there's different types of different classes of characters. There's a form that is known as the hiragana text, and so really these are just sort of phonetic symbols. That this is authentic to Japan. Then you had the katakana text that was created by the Buddhist monks, and which is used to denote mostly used to spell foreign words. And then there is the kanji text. Now that one has over 5,000 characters. This one came from China. So the Japanese written Japanese is a combination of all of those things. So I fully can read hiragana and katakana characters. But my knowledge of the kanji or Chinese characters is a lot more limited.
Wow, quite very interesting. You were speaking in plural, we. So I want to believe you're talking about your siblings.
Correct.
In the position of the Onen family, were you a firstborn, middle child, only boy? Tell us about your siblings.
Well, I am the firstborn of my mother. I was introduced to an elder brother later on in life who then joined us in Japan, but he was born of a different lady.
Wow, quite very interesting.
Yes.
Any sisters?
Yes, I have. From my mother, I have one sister, who is in Kampala. She's called Mary, and from the other mothers of the family, if I can put it that way. This is Africa, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Only that you don't seem to live in Africa. There's nothing like a mother to you in terms of wife. So you'll be the wife. Shots fired very early. Yeah?
No problem.
James, on this program we play our music. And of course, for a guy like you, choosing the kind of music that you want to play on the program is more like being lost for choice. But what would be your first song?
Well, I think the song I would like to start with is my most favorite song of all time, and it is called Change the World by Eric Clapton.
Why is it your favorite song? Well, like that's got very serenading effect on me, and the lyrics are a bit deep. But what about you? Why did you choose it as your favorite?
Well, from a musical standpoint, it's a marriage of two genres. You've got sort of the blues vibe, plus a more distinctively R&B vibe. So the song actually is a collaboration between Eric Clapton and Babyface. So the marriage of these two talents together just gave birth to this most exquisite song that just brings the best of both genres together. And also it has a very catchy melody. And I feel like the lyrics are also very charming. The message of the song is very charming, It's about a guy who wishes he could be all the things that a woman would want, and he's sort of lamenting the fact that he can't quite be that guy, but he's sort of wishing and hoping that one day he could be. So it's actually a melancholy song, but it's very sweet and charming, and just so well put together that it
makes
ranks
it to your favorite song.
It makes
because
it
you're
that
that guy that wishes to be everything that women want.
Maybe that might be it. That might be it. Maybe I want to change the world so I can be the sunlight in someone's universe.
Wow, later on you'll be telling us whether there's already that somebody in your universe. But that's it here on 91.3 Capital FM's Desert Island Discs. If you've been listening to Capital Radio for the long haul, I'm sure you know that we played this song for decades on end. So let's get back down memory lane. Of course, it's chosen by you, James Onen. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
If I can reach the stars, pull one down for you, shining on my heart, so you could see the truth. Then this love I have inside is everything it seems, but for now I find it's only in my dreams that I can change the world. I will be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something good. Baby, if I could change the world. If I could be king, even for a day, I'd take you as my queen. I'd have no other way, and our love would rule in this kingdom we have made. Till then I'd be a fool, wishing for the day that I can change the world. I would be the sunlight in your universe. You would think my love was really something good. Baby, if I could change the world.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
91.3 Capital FM, Desert Island Discs. Now we're having a conversation with a legend in the industry, 21 years, and, well, he just threatened by saying, game over. And a cartoonist in town just said, gamer over, because, of course, you are a very ardent gamer for that. But
That
tell
is
us
true.
about your gaming addiction. I want to call addiction for what it is.
Well, in all fairness, it was a phase in my life that I think has long since passed.
Really?
For a period of time, I was quite an avid gamer. I acquired several of these popular gaming consoles. I had the PlayStation 2, 3, and eventually got the 4. But I feel like gaming kind of fell out of favor with me because I felt like there wasn't much evolution in the kinds of games that were being created. So between the PlayStation 2 and PlayStation 3 console generation, I saw a lot of innovation in gameplay and in concepts and ideas. But with the latest iteration, the latest generation of console games, everything's just sort of become stagnant. So the games are the same, the gameplay is the same, the only difference is the graphics. The graphics are a bit more advanced because the machines can process more of it. But, for me, that doesn't pull me in. Because I don't just like graphics. I like gameplay, which is interesting. I like a story, which is interesting. So I find myself not really like taking that much of an interest in the new crop of games that are coming out. And I know that they are going to be releasing a PlayStation 5 pretty soon, but I don't have much interest in acquiring it because I'm not really confident that the games will appeal to me all that much. So I've long since sort of moved away from that realm of entertainment. I'm not spending so much time in gaming as much as I used to.
Later on, I'll be asking you, what is it that's occupying the time you otherwise spent gaming? Is it looking after Garfield, your cat, or something else? However, that illuminates something about your personality that, well, I won't wait to listen to which schools you went to and all that, but I'll just quickly go into something about your personality that you seem to illuminate by that. You seem to be a guy with a very short attention span, especially for stuff that doesn't interest you or mediocre stuff, something that doesn't really entice you. And sometimes this absence of patience and ability to hold on and wait for something better maybe even cost you, or has even cost you a job you couldn't wait on for a couple of months to get a 25% pay cut. Are you that impatient?
Well, I mean, I held down the job for 21 years, so at least with respect to that, I can be patient.
Hats off for sure.
But with respect to the salary cuts, it's a really complicated situation. And, without getting into too much detail, our station, like many, decided to adopt drastic measures to deal with what they believed were extenuating circumstances with the current economy. And so pay cuts were suggested and were implemented. And when they were instituted, a lot of us, we begrudgingly we didn't consent to them. We were not notified of them. But we just sort of shrugged our shoulders and said, well, what can we do? What choice do we have? I mean, we got to just keep coming to work. After all, this is our job. And then what happened was that our line managers or the heads of department came together and decided that amongst themselves that they wanted to implement a collective action to compel the ownership of the station to reverse the decision. So the rest of us, we were not happy with the pay cuts, but we were proceeding to work and were expecting that the situation might reverse itself down the road. But then what happened is that the heads of department decided that they were going to push for a collective action. And so they drafted a letter that protested the cuts and expressed an intention to cease working pending the resolution of the matter. And so they brought it before us and compelled us to be a part of it. They said, hey, so here's what we're going to do. We need you guys all on board. So please, sign this thing. We're going to push it forward and we're going to make sure that the ownership is going to reverse the decision. Now, these are our heads of department. These are our superiors. And so a lot of us essentially trusted in their guidance. We assumed that
sense of judgment.
We assumed that they knew what they were doing. We assumed that it was a leverage play, that maybe this was going to get the conversation started on how to resolve the issue. We didn't really think that any serious action was going to be taken beyond that. And so as I prepared to go to work the next morning, the night before, I was contacted by my line manager. He said, okay, so you're not going to work tomorrow. So I'm like, wait, so for real? Like, it's really happening? Like, is that what you're saying, that I don't go to work? He said, yeah. I asked for clarification 3 times. He said, yep. I asked him until when. He said, we'll notify you down the road. And then they indicated that they had made some headway in their discussions with the owners of the station, who had pledged in writing to meet them on Thursday.
At 9 a.m., which was last week.
Yes, in order to resolve the issue and to find a way forward. It was a very conciliatory letter, not hostile at all or antagonistic. Basically, every indication that they were seeking a cordial resolution to the issue. And then the night before that Thursday meeting was supposed to happen, on Wednesday night, we all get emails saying that we've terminated our own contracts. So we are no longer employed. Please return all company property. You are hereby no longer employed.
And the bomb fell.
The bomb fell. So,
even without seeming to pass the buck now to what you refer to as your line managers.
Yeah.
But you seem to be the kind of person with a very high opinionated spirit that, if anything, you're not the average Ugandan guy that will take anything lying down. Is it so much about your top leadership telling you to lay down your tools, or you, James, from your own personality traits and all that, could have done that easily anyway?
Well, the thing is, I was the highest earning personality at the station. So even though the pay cuts came to me, that I got the pay cuts, they weren't as devastating to me as they would have been to some of my colleagues who would have been getting much paid less.
Yes.
I'm a single guy. I don't have dependents. I don't have huge responsibilities. I'm not paying off a mortgage. I don't have a wife and kids. Essentially, I'm living fairly comfortably given what I'm getting paid, okay? So even with the pay cut, I found myself mostly feeling inconvenienced, because now it just meant I had to plan things
Eat less
differently.
chicken and so on.
Have less fun.
And unable to afford the PlayStation 5 if at all you change your mind.
Yeah, travel. Maybe this year I won't take a vacation. That sort of thing, right? So I wasn't like exactly feeling like so hard hit by it that I would feel it necessary to take such a drastic action. It's just that, if anything, I sort of felt compelled by the collective
solidarity,
because I was told everyone's on board, so everyone has to be a part of it, everyone's signing it, and so to have not been a part of it it made me feel as though I would be seen to be
Judas Iscariot Jameson.
Yeah, so just because you're comfortable, you're not trying to get on board with this. But just so that we're clear, you see, a lot of people had sort of come to terms with it. They felt they didn't like the cuts, but they were like, well, it's unfortunate, but what can we do? So people had every intention of continuing to work, hoping for the
brighter day
situation to resolve, for better times ahead. Mm-hmm. And then the line managers, the heads of department, decided to engineer the action and to compel us to participate in it.
Well, we know all you guys. We don't know the line managers. They get the similar email that you got. Are you aware?
As far as I'm aware, they did, yes.
Oh, okay.
As far as I'm aware. I don't know for sure, but I know that all the presenters got those emails.
James, again, like I said, we play our music on the program. Now, this you just took us to the current circumstance, but certainly we are even more intrigued in knowing the making of James Onen and your life story and all that. So before we get back into the track of how you were raised from Tokyo, the first 9 years of your life, were they 9 or 11?
11 years.
11 years.
Yeah.
Just play your next track.
Well, I think it would be appropriate to play my other favorite song. This one is from Tevin Campbell, and it is called Goodbye. And I don't think I need to explain why it's my choice. Because
isn't it too early for you to start bidding your farewell? I'm sure, even after this program, who knows?
Well, it's goodbye to
that particular
this
frequency, maybe.
This chapter, for sure, because I can never go back. But also, it's goodbye to this chapter of my life.
You're kidding me.
This
If-
particular chapter, yeah.
As you walk out of this station, my bosses, having listened to us having this conversation, realize that in fact you would draw more listeners here, you're more coherent and more reasonable than myself, and say, you know what, James Onen?
Yeah.
This Thailand disc is for you. Wouldn't you take it? This is come to remember.
Yeah,
Or
hey,
the
this
station in the
this it seems like a sweet gig. You're having too much fun here. I'm
Absolutely
jealous.
So then why are you saying it's goodbye? Come on, James, don't break our hearts. Eh? Something is coming up. You said you communicate next steps, but
Yeah.
certainly before a microphone, I want to believe. Let's play Tevin Campbell. Goodbye, as chosen by James Onen. We'll be right back with more of his life story.
Here we go.
Say, lady, can I ask you why you're treating me like a stepchild with the future not so bright? I thought you said you would never be that way to me. You said you'd never leave me for the rest of my life. And I believed you all the times you said to me, baby, you're always on my mind. I don't believe you, so say the words you said to me, and I'll be on my way. I've got to say goodbye, baby. You didn't want my love. That's what starts the pain, baby. You didn't need my love. You'll never be that way to me. I've got a love that you will never see. Yeah. I guess you thought you had strung out on your love. Yeah.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.
1.3 Capital FM, Desert Island Disc Cities, and you'll agree with me that James Onen just knows how to tell his story in the most articulate way. Perhaps that's the only language he knows how to speak, English and a bit of Japanese. Do you speak your mother tongue, James?
Unfortunately, no. And my parents got a lot of criticism for it from relatives and friends that, hey, how is it that you didn't teach your children to speak the language? And really, I see them struggling to explain it. And I don't know what real answer they have, but it just turned out that we were not able to learn our mother tongue.
Don't you feel disenfranchised in one way or another, especially when you meet some of your village cousins and you're unable to communicate to them?
Well, yeah. I mean, obviously, I definitely can understand some of it, but not a whole deal. And yeah, I wish I could speak it. I have tried to learn it, but it's almost as though that part of my brain that allows you to learn a language, it just got blocked. I'm incapable of learning.
Let me tell you what they say, James.
What?
The best place to learn a new language is on the pillow.
Oh!
So you need to do something. Guess what? I speak a bit of your language. You know why?
Yes, because you share a
share a
pillow with someone who speaks my language.
It's more like a rhyme. I share a pillow with a pio.
Oh, nice.
So, James, 11 years in Tokyo, going
Yeah.
through their school system. How was it like? Take us back there, going to school. And of course, in view of what the world is faced with, I want to believe that you may have faced these strange glares at you as you walk into class from all these white, slit-eyed Japanese kids with black hair looking at you with a black skin. Did you face that? Did you?
Yeah. Racism, I definitely experienced it, and which might explain my interest in discussing some of the issues pertaining to race relations as they relate to current events. Obviously, as you know, right now, the the U.S. is ablaze with riots and protests over concerns about race relations. And
Tell us your experience with racism in Japan.
well, most of it really was soft racism, not hard racism. So it's not like someone saying you can't enter this building, you can't enter this car or access this service. It's
no
more.
one gave you a banana?
It's just more. Some people, particularly children, being hostile to you in some instances. I remember a time when me and my brothers, we got chased out of a park that we had gone to play as children. We were some kids ganged up against us and threw stones and sand at us, and we had to be rescued by a policeman who was called by a good Samaritan, an old lady passing by who saw what was happening. So
Japanese old lady?
Yes, so she goes call the police. We get rescued and
Not arrested.
no. We were outgunned. It was just me and two brothers, and
You had a whole community.
yeah, they had a whole
kids.
gang of children. And I mean, the children were heavily reprimanded and punished by the parents because the adults understood that was a wrong thing. But yeah, so there would be that kind of racism, or also, you're walking down the street and then a child who probably has seen an African for the first time, his mouth agape, or will clutch,
Or breaks into
crying, or will clutch his mother's leg, or will just stare and point. And so the important thing is, I came to understand where all that comes from. It comes from a place of ignorance, of unfamiliarity, and it doesn't come from a place of malice. So that if ever there are situations where one feels slighted due to racial reasons, I feel like if you scratch beneath the surface, a lot of those problems result more from innocence, ignorance, and unfamiliarity rather than outright hatred. Because I've since having engaged in these types of conversations, whether white, black, Indian, Chinese, and Asian, whoever, about these issues, you do find that even the ones that might strike some as racist, really when you talk to them about it, you find that their attitude is mostly informed by certain stereotypes they have about people of a particular race. And yet when they get to know you personally and realize that you're maybe different or that you don't conform to that stereotype, you notice that they usually are very friendly towards you. And so for me, my own solution to concerns about racism is just that. Allow people to freely associate and to freely mingle, and eventually people will form relationships, they will form bonds, they will form communities, and there is no need for any. I don't like the current approach, which is to excoriate one race over the other, to say, oh, the white man is the devil, the white man is evil, the white man is this, because all you end up doing is making them feel defensive. Because most white people, if asked directly, are you a racist? Most will say no. And so to point the finger at them and to call them a racist, you only make them defensive, and they just end up tuning out any messaging about how they supposedly are supposed to be better. So rather, you want to engage them in a more open way and to just allow the free flow of ideas and words and cultures to just create the kind of harmony that would naturally result from that. Once you try to artificially engineer it, that's where you're going to start to see more and more of those tensions. We came back to Uganda.
And I was going to ask after 11 years what happened.
And we see the chaos and the confusion. I think some of those attitudes and ways of thinking that we carried with us from Japan helped us to engage with the society we were living in good ways and in bad ways. Well, for one, it made me a very keen observer of trends, because now I was kind of an outsider looking in, and so I'm more sensitive to certain intricacies about Ugandan society that maybe someone who's just lived in the environment would take for granted and not really recognize.
E.g., timekeeping or the absence of it.
Timekeeping, eating habits, fashion trends, relationship trends,
transport money and things like that just don't make it for you. So when you came back from
Things like
Japan,
that.
which schools did you get yourself hitched into?
Okay, well, I first was sent to East Kololo Primary School. And this was because it was the primary school that was closest to
where
we lived at the time. We were staying in Lower Kololo Terrace. East Kololo Primary School, I don't know much about it now, but at the time, it was considered to be a mid-tier school, with no disrespect meant, but it was the kind of school that was sort of viewed as, middle tier.
In top tier. But these top tier schools were for ambassadors' children and all that.
Exactly.
Why did Ambassador Onen think that his children or want his children to go to a mid-tier school, never mind that was closest to his house?
I think it was just meant temporarily, because within just a few months, we were then sent to Kampala Parents School.
Oh, okay, now that's where you actually belong.
Yeah, that's where all of the rich, where the ministers' children and the government officials' children and businessmen's children, that's where they were being sent. And so we ended up there in Kampala Parents. All of us were put through that school.
Let's play the next song when we return. It's now about your secondary school and what it is that you did thereafter.
The song I would like to play next is Keys to the City by Tiwa Savage. He's one of my favorites.
Wow, let's listen to that. We'll tell us later what that means in your life.
Who got the key to the city? Who got the fine face, pretty, pretty? I got the man, them, witty, witty. Who got the key to the city? Who got the fine face, pretty, pretty? I got the man, them, witty, witty. The way I wind my body boneless. All your friends, they must confess. I'ma give it to you, so no stress. Get your body right, no rest. The way I wind my body boneless. All your friends, they must confess. I'ma give it to you, so no stress. Get your body right, no rest. When the sun goes away, the big girls come play. Then the man them go pray. I can make you fall in love. 'Cause if what you're saying is true, I will never leave you. Like say you use it your Jew. It can never back to late. Who got the key to the city? Who got the fine face, pretty, pretty? I got the man them witty, witty. The way I wind my body boneless. All your friends, they must confess. I'ma give it to you, so no stress. Get your body right, no rest. The way I wind my body boneless. All your friends, they must confess. I'ma give it to you, so no stress. Get your body right, no rest. You look like a lot you tango day. Spending your money at a dago day. And wallahi, my love is not so kind. And I know you love me too. Amen. Tell them say Baba God, don't bless. Oh yes, no stress. Amen. Tell them say Baba God, don't bless. Oh yes, no stress.
91.3 Capital FM, Desert Island Disc Series on this wonderful Sunday evening. And you'll agree with me that we have a legend in the house, but most importantly, he's got a very intricate life story, and perhaps it informs why he is the kind of person that he is, from his viewpoints, his outlook to life, and some of the, we call them crazy things that he does. Yet, in fact, it's the socialization he has only known. James Onen, also known as Fat Boy. Is it about time you think about a name change? Fat Boy doesn't really now cut it for you, considering how you look.
Well, I mean, it's how everyone knows me, so I don't know.
How did that come up? Were you that very fat?
Oh, yeah.
Chubby for anyone to call you Fat Boy? I've seen pictures of you from the early 90s strumming a guitar, and you were a little guy.
Yeah. I was a little guy, and then somewhere in the early 2000s, around 2001, 2, and 3, I entered the corporate realm, and so I had a desk job. So I was now a 9-to-5 sedentary office guy, sitting on my desk all day, right? Eating these exorbitant lunches that were served to all the workers, because lunch would be like a gourmet meal. Like we would fill our plates with pilau, and I just exploded. My weight exploded in that short time, and so when I returned to Sunny FM in 2004. Everyone was like, wow, dude, what have you been doing? What have you been eating?
What happened to you?
Yeah, what happened to you? So I was so fat. So everyone was making fun of me and teasing me. And so the news editor at the time, Olivia Cherendu, she said, "Oh, you're fat boy, fat boy, fat boy. Look at you, fat boy." And so she was teasing me like that. And of course, Shanice, my co-host at the time, she caught wind of the
Fat boy Monica.
moniker that was circulating within the office about me. And so one day in the studio while we were on the air, she just started saying, "Oh, look at you. That's why you're a fat boy. What do you even know? You're just a fat boy. Keep quiet. You're fat." And I kind of liked the ring to the name. It just seemed like, you know what? This is actually cool. How about I just start calling myself that? So I embraced it and I owned it.
In recent times, we've seen co-presenters, storming out of studios for their colleagues, calling them a few things or describing pieces of their body accessories.
Yeah.
How come you are so easy with being called fat boy? And if anything, rather than get angry with it, you actually decided to take it on and own it as your own trade name.
Well, I mean, I guess I'm thick-skinned. I don't take
You've seen
insults. I don't take insults personally. And I think when you take offense to something someone says, it says more about you than about the person insulting you or attempting to offend you. It says that you have deep insecurities about who you are. And I've always grown up feeling confident about who I am. So, I don't really respond to insults or what names people call me because I feel like I know what I'm made of.
And sometimes even when you respond, you are so sarcastic, you just laugh at them. You
Yeah.
laugh in the face of insults.
Exactly.
On your Facebook page.
Oh, yeah. I get a lot of, on
Hate,
Facebook,
so to speak.
I get a lot of hate directed towards me, but
Which
see,
you
that's
actually invite. You have a way of inviting this stuff
sure
from you.
that is true, and it is what allows me to engage with them, because no one's going to want to engage in a conversation unless you're able to arouse their emotions. And so a lot of times, I might express opinions that may rub some people the wrong way, and they will be outraged and take offense and retaliate with vitriol and verbal fire, artillery. But I take it in good stride. I just laugh at the insults that I get, and it motivates me to keep going because it means that they're interested in what I have to say, even if it means that they just want to criticize it.
Sometimes don't you get those most critical, vitriol-laden guys coming back at you and saying, I think I was wrong. I'm sorry. Maybe I now understand.
Well, it's funny. I've seen some people express the view that they absolutely hate what I stand for and the things I say, but they just like me. They can't explain it.
Quite interesting.
And I think there's a certain amount of respect that comes with, or at least that they feel for me when they realize that I'm comfortable engaging with them in that way. Because if you're comfortable taking heat from people, it means that you know who you are. If you don't run and hide, if people turn up the heat, it means you know what you're made of, and so you are worthy of respect. And I think I've built that sort of relationship with many of my detractors. They hate me, but they keep coming back.
I love your thick skin. I love the way you get people around you, and I like the way you choose not to retaliate fire with fire. That's a lesson I think I can learn from you, seriously, because I, on the other hand, you show me the middle finger, I'll show you two of them.
Oh, really?
That says something about me. But let's go back to Kampala Parents. Now, you show up in Kampala Parents. Obviously, you join in the middle of your counterparts who are in the middle of the year, but you go through the school. So what do you remember most vividly around your interactions then? A sport you excelled at, a particular liking you had, or something that you can touch and feel?
Well, my parents were surprised by the fact that I turned out to be excellent at maths and science.
Which you were not in Japan, or?
Not really. But when I came to Uganda, my interest in science and mathematics just sort of skyrocketed, and I was always top of the class.
Wow.
And so think of it, I'm just a kid straight from Japan, and within, the first time I sat my exams, I was like, what was I? I was like the 46th out of a class of 63. And then the next term, I was up to number 3.
Ooh.
This is P5 third term. And from P6 first term up to P7 third term, I never left the top 5.
Wow.
Yeah, in my class. In this
Get your 4 and out of Kampala Parents.
Yeah. In my P6, I was mostly number 1 every end of term.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did you want to be? Or at that moment, you were still waking up an engineer, sleeping as a lawyer.
Well, that's the thing. I guess it was hard for me to know exactly what I wanted to do. We didn't have much of career guidance, and I kind of was just going through the motions of going to class and sitting the exams. I thought I might be a scientist in some fashion, but then when I went to secondary school, things started to change for me.
Which secondary school did you go to?
I went to King's College, Budo.
Whoa.
Yes.
That was ace. Now that explains a bit about your attitude. Is it true that guys from King's College Budo walk around like they sniffing oxygen made from a different ozone space than we ordinary folks from the normal schools, if at all?
So I hear. But some have said, some have attributed my attitude to that, and maybe there's part of it that's true. Maybe some of this is the Budonian spirit, the Budonian arrogance.
The Budonian arrogance.
Yeah.
So in Budo, what struck you most about this place? Oh, anyway, what informed your choice of Budo? Was it because that's where your father had gone, or it was just the school, one of the top that you had to go since you're from Kampala parents?
Well, I would have to say that was my mother's choice primarily. My mother really wanted me to go to Budo. She was convinced that it was the best school in the country. Well, at the time, I don't know. I haven't seen the latest rankings. I don't know which schools do well now. But at the time, Budo was consistently in the top 3. This is 1988, 89. So my mother was determined that I go there. And so that is where I applied. And then that is where I ended up.
Any disappointment in getting in there? Did it meet your expectation? Did you meet your mother's expectations of staying in Budo for the 4 years, 6 years?
Well, the thing is, my takeaway from my time in Budo is, as a school, I feel like it wasn't that good of a school in terms of the quality of the teaching. Rather, because it had such a high bar for entry, it attracted the brightest minds of the country. And so there was a lot of self-study going on, self-revision, study groups, children teaching fellow children together. The teachers were not really exceptional. They would just come, take you through the lesson, give you the notes, and walk out. But I noticed that mostly it was the students teaching themselves some of the harder concepts and training themselves to be better at answering questions. So for me, I found myself not really benefiting from my education there, and I started to have a lot of doubt as to what I wanted to do, because I could never really latch on to any particular subject that interested me. And so it ultimately affected my performance. So whereas I entered the school as a top performing primary candidate, now I'm just sort of feeling lost. And of course, now I'm a teenager. I'm going through the usual teenage.
Exactly, the usual adolescent moments.
Yes. Also, my parents were starting to have problems with their marriage. So a lot of that stuff just put me off track. And so I started to do very badly in school. And so by
class?
Yes,
because you could have been doing very well on the cricket oval. Or very well before the courses of the DJ.
Yeah. Well, so academically, my performance suffered very much when I entered secondary school. And when I went to A-levels, even worse.
Still in Budo?
Yes, still in Budo.
Mm-hmm. At least you made it on merit to go back to HSC.
Yeah, I did. Although I went back to do a course that was considered to be less prestigious.
Which one was this?
This was MEG.
Mathematics, economics, and geography.
Well, hey, the brightest students are doing PCM, they're doing PEM.
Like myself, PCB math, but look what
PCB. So MEG was considered to be not quite there, right? But I did it, and I didn't do so well. I did manage to get 2 principal passes, but not enough to secure a place in the course that I wanted at Makerere, which is Bachelor of Commerce. So I ended up getting sent to India.
Just over there, let's just put a pause over there. Let's go back to Budo. Any extracurricular activities that you did apart from flunking in your academics?
Well, I was born again for many. I was a born again Christian. I was saved.
What hit your head?
for like from S1 to S3, I was like super safe.
What had hit your head? I need to know. I mean, now with the benefit of hindsight, you can look back and say, okay, fine. Was it because of the trauma you are getting from bigger boys in what is now termed as teasing, and therefore the scripture union appeared to be that place of solace?
Exactly that. It was the safe haven, and the elders, like the older students, they would come to you in your cubicles. Oh, hey, how are you doing? Are you fitting in well? We have a fellowship meeting. We'll be happy to have you join us.
And in there, you're treated like an equal.
Exactly. So so ordinarily I'm being yelled at and bullied by the older students, and here is a guy. He's in S6, he's in S5, and he's telling me, "Hey, please, you're welcome. Please come join us. Would like you to come." So I think that was part of the appeal, and then also the born again community. It's a very tight knit. There's a sense of community, so I felt like I'd found a home away from home.
And then what convinced you to leave that home away from home? What hit your head again? I'll ask, because I can imagine when you argue from a point of conviction. I think when I you could have made even the Pope get saved.
Maybe the older I got, I felt more comfortable in my skin, and I could take on some of the tougher guys, the tougher elements out there. So I didn't really feel the need for the same protection.
So you were really in there for the protection, not so much for what it really stood.
But no, I actually did believe the message. I did, and it was actually my first exposure to religion, because I grew up in Japan, not a religious country at all. So my first real exposure to Christianity was in Budo, in S1, when I joined the fellowship. And so not only was I feeling welcomed and safe, but also I was being told a very heartwarming story.
That's granted, but James, from there, you not only quit the Scripture Union, but today as we speak, you're one of the few known atheists.
Correct.
Unapologetically so.
Yes.
How so? Why so?
Well, so what happened was, I'm the kind of person that once I start to do something, I get in like real super deep.
Give it 25 hours.
So for me, being born again wasn't a cosmetic thing. It wasn't a fad or a trend. I was taking it seriously. Like I really wanted to get into the nitty gritty. Okay, that's how seriously I took my journey. So I would spend a lot of time reading the Bible, like personally, not the verses that they tell you to, the nice and sweet verses of encouragement that you're asked to read from time to time. No, I just went, page 1. Let me start.
You're like me, man. I did that thing 5 times from cover to cover.
Exactly. Now, the Bible is an extremely fascinating book, even just as a piece of literature. Like even if you remove the theology, the stories, particularly in the first 5 books, I mean, it reads like an adventure story.
Exactly.
I mean, there's heroes, villains, challenges.
You're within Jumanji.
Romance. Do you know what I mean? And some of it is interpersonal. Some of it is man interacting with God. Some of it, I mean, it was all just compelling, fascinating stuff. The Bible is not really a part of my life.
You are such a quitter. I mean, I thought the more intriguing something is, the more in-depth you want to delve into.
That's the thing. It's a dark rabbit hole. I mean, because you will end up learning things that you didn't even know was the case. So, for example, you're going to learn about. You'll find so there's 5 gospels. Not
4.
Sorry, I beg your pardon. There are 4 official gospels. Okay, and then you're going to find that between the gospels, whereas they share similar themes, the events are narrated slightly differently between them, which then raises the question of the accuracy and fallibility.
No. The New York Times reporting about this guy who died from a knee on his neck certainly would be different from the Science Christian Monitor. It would be different from the Global Post. So.
Exactly, which is a good point, which then means that really what we are reading are the recollections of human beings. So
not God's word.
Exactly. And so but then that is how we are told we are supposed to treat the scripture as divine word from God. So
the conversation on divinity certainly is one that would never end. But at least we appreciate that you gave it your thought and gave it your time, and then you wore out. And what other extracurricular activity did you
besides read the Bible?
Besides read the Bible in Budo.
I was in a rap group.
Rap. Now that's getting me to where I want to find your life story.
Yeah, so I started a rap group with my friends. This is 1990. And at that time, hip-hop was just starting to make waves in this country. And so, yeah, we're one of the pioneer rap groups. We even managed to do some shows in Sheraton Hotel.
You're kidding me. Which group was it? Just take
It's called D&D Slam.
D&D Slam.
Yeah, so
what
this-
got you into rapping? I mean, did you have a musical fancy, or you were, well, of course, the fancy kid from abroad?
What I think that partly, and so I made friends with people who were equally well traveled, and I guess were more familiar with the hip hop culture than most people. And so they were listening to. They had all these tapes of Public Enemy and Kool Moe Dee and
and this guy of Vanilla Ice and
huh?
MC Hammer.
Those came later, but like they were listening to many of the big artists of the day, and they had the tapes and would listen to it during break time or after classes, and really got the hang of it. And then we just started writing our own lyrics, and then we would look
Dropping
for
beats.
We would look for beats, and then just start rapping over them. We started performing at school variety shows, and then we did our own show at the Sheraton.
Who are these guys? Any names that we can remember?
No, not really.
Or you need their permission to mention their names
No.
as you narrate your life story?
Well, okay. So, the leader of the group is a guy called Martin Kisumba, who unfortunately passed away
Oh dear.
around 2005 or 6. Another one, Duncan Ndugwa Katende. He's now based in the States. He's a pastor.
Pastor.
Yeah. So there's me. But one of our contemporaries, he wasn't part of our group, not even in our school. I believe he was going to Ntare, but he was part of our generation of up-and-coming hip-hop artists, and his name is Jimmy Bagaire.
Yes. MC Afrique.
MC Afrique.
God rest his soul in
And
heaven.
he worked here for a time,
Absolutely,
didn't he?
yeah. Yeah,
At
he
this
did.
station? Yes, a dear friend to many people, myself included. And he actually inspired. He's the guy that inspired us to get into it. So really, he's the chief hip hop pioneer of Uganda. I would rank him as the main guy that kicked off the movement. And so we did shows together with him. We did performances, and we grew together. Obviously, our paths
Crisscrossed a number of ways.
crisscrossed a number of ways, deviated.
I recall at one time you were an on-air presenter at one radio station, and you was in the sales and marketing team.
Can you imagine? So I guess, that's life. We grow up and our paths cross, and sometimes we...
But let's put it this way, James. I mean, a rap group in a secondary school at that time is something of gargantuan proportions in terms of popularity and fame. And you're young people just growing up. You must have had the fancy of all the girls screaming your names at school variety shows and all that.
Yeah, but I was always a shy boy, so I didn't have too many girls trying to... I had a few fans, but... no, they weren't trying to break down my door.
Now, James, you know that you have a very long and compelling life story, but of course, like any other good thing, everything has got to come to an end. But we're not allowing this to end here because we haven't seen your life story more from failing to get admitted to university in Uganda, going to India, and we know what going to India meant around that time. Many went to India for courses and returned without anything on them. What did you return with? And then, of course, we get to know that you joined FM at its very infancy in Uganda, given it 21 years, so to speak.
Yes.
Capital is 25 or something years, 27 years old. So it means that you got into FM in the first 10 years of FM, as it were.
Yes.
Now let's crack a deal, James, and I don't take no for an answer.
Uh-huh.
That we close it for now, tonight,
Mm-hmm.
then return next week and complete it up to the end.
Excellent.
What will be your last song for tonight, and then return next week?
Actually, my last song for tonight is going to be a ballad. Yeah, we're gonna end it nice and
Slow in the red light district. Red light zone.
yeah, but it's a sweet song with a very nice message. It's by Color Me Bad, and it is called Let's Start With Forever.
I won't ask why. I'll simply play it and wait for you next Sunday.
Thank you, Simon.
stay there always. I would like to spend my life with you. You're not sure about it. We don't have to rush into anything, baby. Why don't we just start with forever? Take it from there. If you got the time, baby, I got a lifetime to share. Why don't we spend
We'll return same place, same time with James Onen, also known as Fat Boy, next week for I'll Tell You What. His life story is not one you really want to edit and cut into pieces. Otherwise, that's to shortchange you, the listener, and also not make very good use of a moment when you have the legend in your midst. So we'll be right back next Sunday. But stay with us. It's Capital FM.
Desert Island Discs on 91.3 Capital FM.